trust Ferguson Roof Systems to replace your roof, we go the extra mile to protect your home and property. On every job, we deploy durable netting to protect your home's exterior and landscaping. It's just one more reason why you should call Ferguson Roof Systems today.
Whew! Man, what a day! Are you ready? Are you ready to rumble? Ah, man, we got a storm coming. It's still happening. Looking at the latest data, hot off the presses, just coming in the last few minutes. And I tell you what, man, snow is the most difficult thing to forecast in Oklahoma. I mean, not only just the amounts, but even sometimes the type of precip and the hours of when it'll occur and all that. It can be a total nightmare for forecasters, and you never win because I can tell you you're gonna get 3 inches and you'll get 2 and you'll be like boo, or you'll get 1 or whatever, or sometimes I'll tell you get 4 and you end up with 8. It's one of those deals. But I tell you what, we're gonna do our best job again tonight. This is it, right? This is like the Super Bowl Hail Mary play. You don't have any more time left on the clock. You got to make your final call. You got to make your final play and then see where it all lies tomorrow when we all start our Tuesday. So thanks for joining me. I'm Meteorologist Tuttle. If you're new here, welcome to AT's Weather. We talk about all the science without the hype and the drama and the nonsense that you get a lot of times on local media. We just give it to you straight. But I make it entertaining because I do get down to the weeds, into the dirt, and I teach you how to be a backyard meteorologist. You listen to me long enough, you're going to be spouting out terms that people think you went to school and got a degree. So it's fun. This is the way I kind of give back. I got all this knowledge in the head, right? Might as well give it back to you. Not going to do me any good, taking it to the grave with me. So anyway, out there right now, oh man, look at that. 41 degrees. It's the calm before the storm. Got a few clouds out there. No big deal. By the way, if you're on Facebook, hit the link I just posted if you want to get notified when I go live through your direct messenger, because that sometimes is better than what the algorithms will do. If you have not had a chance, whenever you do follow a page, make sure you go and change your settings where you can hit the there's different categories, but like on live videos, make sure you hit all lives. Otherwise, it defaults you to either none or highlights. And a highlight could be once a year, according to their terms. So you don't want that. So that way you don't miss anything. Same thing with the post and all that kind of stuff. So you can do that on your Facebook while you're watching this, if you're on your phone or even on your computer. And that way you won't miss anything in the future. You guys joining in on YouTube, awesome. Welcome. Thanks again for chatting in the window and for sending me those super chats and superstars and everything else. YouTube is trying to be like Facebook now. They're all trying to be the same, giving content creators like little tips kind of a deal for what they do for their work. And you guys on Facebook have been doing the Facebook stars for a long time. I see you already throwing me some stars tonight. So thank you very much. I see you, June. I see you, Aaron. I see you, Holly. There's a ton of you out there, so I appreciate every little star that you send. It all helps to pay the bills, right? Okay, so let's see. Also, you guys on Twitter, welcome as well. Can't interact with you quite so much until Elon fixes that platform and makes it where we can all chat like we can on Facebook and YouTube. But hey, it is what it is. Baby steps, right? Okay, big picture. Let's get to it. See the pink? That is a winter storm warning. You're going, what is a winter storm warning? It just means you're going to see over 4 inches of snow. All right, that's the official National Weather Service criteria. And then where you see the purple, that's a winter weather advisory. Keep in mind this can change. This is a winter storm watch, which means this can change. I expect a lot more pink on the map by tomorrow, just so you know. Just because of the latest data. We do look at the jet stream in the form of the water vapor channel on the satellite. Shows our little spinning storm system out here in the west. It will travel across western Texas and zip through the Dallas-Fort Worth area on into southeast Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, Missouri. And that will be the favorable track for Oklahoma to get some pretty good snows. Now, how could this track be a little bit better, you're wondering? It could probably do something like this. About like that. But not much more. You don't want too far north because then that gets you out of like central Oklahoma, northeast Oklahoma, get you out of the fun stuff for the heavy snow. So we're at a pretty decent, it's not bad. I mean, you could nitpick it all day long, but we'll take it. Now here's a look at, you look at it underneath those clouds and the computer model version of it. Remember, the brighter the colors, the more lift in the atmosphere. And look at all that color popping in across North Texas and Oklahoma during the day on Tuesday. So that is a heck of a lot of lift with this system. And we got a lot of moisture to work with, and it's good. This is kind of sometimes what we get in a spring environment where we have temperatures that are just barely above freezing or right at, and we have a lot of moisture to work with, and it produces a lot of snow. versus like the drier winter type that we normally get. Okay, so here's a look at tomorrow morning. Stop you right here. Again, all the bright red is where the major lift is. You'll get a lot of precipitation that falls under these areas, and when you see the purple, it's off the charts. So that's where sometimes you even get a little bit of thunder within that. All right, so that's in the morning hours. This is mid-morning, noontime. You can see this will be some big thunderstorms down here in Texas, by the way, with that area down there. All right, let's go on into the middle afternoon. Now you can see there's occasional lulls as far as the heavy lift is concerned. I mean, like here's a donut of nothing, right? And out here, so it does mean it'll trickle off to some flurries at times during that period, but otherwise it's still widespread snow. For the evening hours, the lift reignites on the back end of this upper level low. So that low is kind of in the center of where this circle is. And if you want to know where the heaviest snowfall usually falls, it's kind of in this zone like this. So you do get a little wraparound that kind of sneaks in down here toward Dallas-Fort Worth, although I think the low may have jogged just a hair too far to the north, so you may not get anything down here at Dallas. It is a super close call for flurries. That's all it was going to be anyway. It was just a glorified, very, very light dusting that would melt instantly almost anyway. But even that might be off the table as long as this track stays true. All right, into the evening hours, it really gets nuts up here with a lot of heavy lift here just south of Tulsa, Muskogee, McAllister. That's where you get some thunder snow in the evening and some probably 2 to 3 inch snowfall rates. And then that kind of shifts up here to northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri. And there's your other heavy spot of snow later in the event. And then just trickling to overnight flurries. I wanted to show you, a lot of times you guys, when we talk about kind of rain going to snow, you go, what about how many times it busts and it turns into rain and it's rain all the time? All right, usually when that happens, we have warm air advection. It's about 850 millibars. This is what this map is here. Now you see the blue. So let me draw you. This line right here represents the freezing line. Okay, so if we are going to get any of that rain to change, snow to change back over to rain, we have to pump in this, I'll change colors, this warmer temperature here back into southeast Oklahoma and then back into central Oklahoma. And that would melt the snow a few thousand feet off the ground. Let's see what happens. All right, so I'm going to start you off in the morning hours. All right, this is about 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, you do see, ooh, that's some warm air right there. So let's see what happens. Bam, by 6 o'clock in the morning, we erode it. We cut it off in half right here. As we go into the mid-morning hours, we're cutting it off even more. And what you notice is down here in the bottom, we're not generating any strong warm air advection from the Gulf of Mexico to get into Oklahoma. So what this means is we have this east to west flow here where these temperatures are holding around -4 to -5 degrees Celsius, aka no warm air advection that's going to melt the snow into rain, so we don't have to deal with that with the system. And that is because the system took a little bit more of a southern track. When those little more northern tracks, or they come a little too strong, that can bring in that Gulf of Mexico air in here, and that can hose us. And this happened many a times. It'll happen again in the future, but not this go around. All right, so that's kind of some of the science behind what's going to happen for tomorrow. Now let's get down to the details, get down to the juice. Here it is. It's coming a little bit earlier. 4 o'clock in the morning out in western Oklahoma, starting to get a little bit of sprinkle, light rain. It shouldn't last long, maybe an hour before it quickly transitions over to snow. So it should be a mostly snow event really across the body of at least western Oklahoma, from Elk City down to Wichita Falls. There's 6 a.m. Now, as we head into the Oklahoma City Metro, you do notice at 7 a.m. we're already starting to see some light rain. Now, this is a change from earlier models, which didn't even have it in here until about 9 to 10. So it's about a 2-hour, 3-hour ahead of time as far as moistening up the atmosphere. So we'll get a little bit of light rain with this first. Remember, we had that little bit of warm air I showed you aloft. Now, once that warm air gets cooled down from top to bottom, we'll transition that over to snow. So by 9 o'clock, that rain snow window is already forming here across the Oklahoma City metro area and parts of central Oklahoma. So that means the battle zone, where it's going to kind of go back and forth from a little bit of rain to a little bit of snow, it may start as early as 9 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock to 11. I think now, earlier I was looking for a full transition around 1. And I said, if it starts a couple hours early to 11, it's on me. I'm splitting hairs, but looks like I'm going to have to split hairs and stick with the 11 a.m. because that seems to be the favorite time where the models are saying, you know what, it will be cold enough and it'll stay snow after that point. So there's noontime, heavy snow here in central Oklahoma, still transitioning down here across the south. rain in Tulsa, but by 2 o'clock, so the model has sped up the timing of snow for Tulsa to be 2 rather than 4. Otherwise, heavy snow now from Tulsa to Stillwater to Oklahoma City. Where you see these darker blue areas, that's where you get really heavy rates of snow. So if you can kind of barely make that on the map, depending on how big your screen is, that would be this little zone right here. Even back down here in the northwestern Texas. Whereas this stuff up here is pretty light, but again, moderate to heavy in this zone right through central Oklahoma during the middle part of the afternoon. Now, it does, again, show some areas where we're going to get a little bit of that lighter lift and more of a flurry activity, so there will be some downtime, so to speak, whereas a lot of heavy stuff continues here and out in this region. So it's just kind of off and on pattern that will continue. And then here comes that secondary wave in the evening. Here's 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Very heavy snow just north and west of Dallas-Fort Worth. I mean, barely. Through McAllister, Muskogee. Again, we're in Arkansas, of course, by now. Probably still on the south side of Tulsa to Oklahoma City. Back down toward Lawton. And that is through our 6 and 7 and 8 o'clock hour. Let's see. Let me back up one more. All right, so there's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Still heavy snow out at east. 10 o'clock, 11, 12. Or midnight now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. We have some flurries that kind of continue this all wrapping up, said and done. And through 8 o'clock, still some flurries here in Oklahoma City. Looks like one last hurrah. Now that last little round there won't amount to anything, but it will be nice to see because there'll be snow on the ground already. Okay, so we averaged out the computer models for the rainfall amounts. In other words, it was just liquid precipitation. It was just rain. We're looking at an inch here in central Oklahoma to Tulsa, right, pretty much right along the I-44 corridor. And then a little over an inch to inch 0.2 down to Wichita Falls. Now, the reason why this is important, because in old school snow forecasting, you use a 10-to-1 ratio, just to make it easy. So you multiply this times 10, you get how many inches you get. So that's 9 inches of snow to Oklahoma City, 9 inches Tulsa, 11 inches Lawton. Now, the only difference is, instead of 10, we're probably going to be at an 8-to-1. So it won't quite be that high, but it kind of gives you the idea, which is there's a lot of moisture to work with. That we will convert a lot of that into snowfall. Temperature-wise, this is something I talked about the other day. We'll start you off in the morning hours. Let's see, there's 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So notice how Oklahoma City's at 38. Tulsa's cold, but you're going to rebound. Elk City's at 33. Now watch this heavy green zone. This is where atmosphere brings down all that cold air. Dynamic cooling comes from aloft on down to the surface, and it cools the temperature as the system comes overhead. So, for example, watch these numbers here in Lawton, Oklahoma City, from 8 to 9 to 10. They go down to 34. There's 36. And they continue to drop as the snowfall gets heavier. Now, if you notice through noontime here, you can see there's real indication of where those temperatures are really falling here. That means that snow is heavy. It's heavy enough to affect the temperature profile at the surface in the model data. It's a little sneak tip, little trick on the forecast side. All right, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you can see why it's so heavy here in central Oklahoma. We dropped to 33. So to do it, to drop those temperatures down like that, we're going to have very heavy precipitation in the form of snow. And again, that will continue through the afternoon. There's 4 or 5 o'clock. You can see temperatures stay into the lower to mid 30s. We never get quite to 32, with really probably the exception overnight. Some of those little blue areas is right about freezing. That'll sneak in there toward daybreak especially, but not a widespread deal. That does mean that through not all the event, but the majority of the event, roadways will probably be okay because they're so warm to start with. The only time they should go downhill is when you get so much precipitation, it overcomes the melting from underneath, and of course the surface temperature of 33 to 34 degrees. And it can pile up a little bit, cause some, slushy conditions, some slippery conditions, so be careful about that. Okay, so let's get down to how much snow we're going to see. All right, this is always a fun part of the forecast discussion. The latest HER, I'm not happy with. I don't like it. It's got too much dry air, or it ends too much lift at different times, and it really helps to lower the amounts, and so I'm not buying the output. I like the output down here, that's fine, but I just don't like the output it's doing here in central and northeastern Oklahoma. The NAM kind of does something similar too, because of the track of the low, it's doing some funny business, and it shifted the bullseye because of it way out here. And that's a foot of snow. Now, that's not going to happen, don't get too crazy, but I didn't like this shift. I think it was a little too aggressive. It's high resolution brother kind of splits the difference. It does have the indications of some of these light areas where you don't quite get as much. That's 4 inches of snow, for example, in this region. But if you cross into the pink area, you're back up to 8 inches of snow. But the take home here is that this model has shifted kind of the core of the really heavy stuff. We saw this trend last night, kind of in this zone here versus in the earlier preliminary data, it was kind of in this zone. All right, so we pushed it back to the north, and I warned you it might happen because the high resolution model we use for the short-term model, the SHRF, and we'll show you that here in a second. If you look at the other models as well, just to show you the general trend of where the snow is going to fall, because you're going to have pockets here where it's going to range anywhere from 6 to 8 inches in a lot of these areas. But there's one there, one there, one there, one there, another one there, another one there, and another one there. But you do see the commonality is that every now and then you're going to get these little areas where they just don't quite get as much snow as the surrounding region. That happens. I cannot forecast the exact position of when those will occur, neither can the models. It's a signal that it's out there. All right, so this is a SREF. All right, this is usually a pretty good model to pay attention to in the snow. Now, we'll give you this. It's going for almost 10 inches of snow in Oklahoma City, up to around nearly a foot out here in Southwest. It's got 8 inches in Tulsa, nearly a foot up here in Southwest Missouri, Northwest Arkansas. So this, in general, is two things here. It has always had the track of the snow, of the heavier stuff, more to the north, covering the bulk of the state, because it has the upper level low a little more to the north than all the other models. The other models have slightly trended toward it, but not nearly as aggressive. So I've got to pull back a little bit on the far northern fringe. So maybe something like this for that hard line in the sand for the pink stuff. That's really aggressive on the heavy totals of 6 inches. So in other words, not quite 6 up here, but you could probably have 4 along and north of this line. 2 to 4, no problem. All right. Now the other thing is some of this will melt. So and I got to take off at least 2 inches for melting. Just have to, just because it's going to be an estimated guess. It's an educated guess. I just don't see us getting 10 inches of snow here. So I can go with 8. So I can see 6 to 8, no problem. I mentioned that at lunchtime today here across the metro in our Facebook Live earlier. If you do look at the ensemble mean of the European, it kind of goes with that finally. And it was late to the party. The European was really, I was making fun of it last night because it was sad. It normally doesn't perform that poorly. It finally got its act together. Hey, welcome to the party, buddy. But it's got 6 to 8 in this whole purple zone up in to Arkansas and Missouri. And that, again, seems doable. But like we showed you, there'll be pockets where there's going to be a lot less than that in these little isolated areas that you cannot predict. If you were to take the worst case scenario, in other words, a lot of melting, the worst performance that we could see out of this system, the bare minimum of snow guaranteed is like this: 2 to 4 widespread across the state, lighter amounts to the north, which means you are guaranteed to get at least 4 inches of snow here in Oklahoma City, at least 2 inches in Tulsa. So that is if you're going home tonight or going to bed tonight, you're wondering, we're going to see snow. Is it guaranteed? Yes. What's the minimum amount? This right here. What's the max? About 6 to 8 across many areas, and I'll show you that here in a second. Let's see. If you do look at the SREF output here in the black, that's the mean for Oklahoma City, and it's got 9 inches like we talked about. For Tulsa, it had a little bit less than that. I think it had 6 inches of snow. Now is a good time to show you what I mean by some of this stuff. And again, it's going to be a little geeky, a little technical, but it goes to tell you the story. And so I'm just going to do this here just for one example. So if you've seen me do this last couple nights, you get it. Up from bottom to top is the atmosphere. It's a vertical column. And we need the 3 things to juxtapose, override each other. And I'm going to highlight each one for you. So first thing we need is a snow growth layer, and that's this layer right here in the atmosphere, this little thin band, and that's at around 15,000 feet. You need moisture within that band. That's in the green, okay? Got plenty of moisture all within this band. Now you need the red, which is omega, the lift in the atmosphere. Tons of lift and mega, all in this zone. So that is what's driving down the snow, which then drives down the temperature. Now this is the temperature here, which is a freezing point. That's about 5,000 feet off the ground. Then the freezing point drops and drops and drops, hugs a couple hundred feet up to about 400 feet off the ground, and then drops down about 100 feet off the ground where it's actually at 32 degrees. But you notice it's never quite 32 at the surface where we live and breathe. But again, this happens because the precipitation is so heavy that it allows that temperature to fall. So the only thing that could allow the temperature to climb back up, I guess, is a couple things. One, you do have insulation from the sun, even though you can't see it. And 2, if for whatever reason we get some negative lift in the zone and it kind of tapers off some of the heavy snow growth, and you just get some flurries that kind of trickle down, that would allow the temperature to warm by maybe a degree. But I still think it'd be cold enough to stay snow regardless. Anyway, so that's kind of another view of how you can look at what happens behind the scenes and all the stuff that goes on. Okay, let me see here. Let's do, I wanted to see this one because it wasn't in yet all the way. Let's see, go over there. Okay, so this, the reason I want to show you this one, because it highlights where, in a lot of the earlier model data, where the heaviest snow would reside. And kind of how I mentioned, it would be southwest Oklahoma, and this is in the morning hours, through lunchtime, through south central Oklahoma, so just in the south end of Oklahoma City, and then up toward the south end of Tulsa, and there's all of I-40 eastbound, and that includes Muskogee, and there's Fort Smith, and all that stuff for Arkansas. So that's where the heaviest of the heavy snow, and that secondary batch again moves in as well. So another way to view what I tried to show you with the temperatures earlier, just another view of where some of the heavy tracts of snow will be. But as we talked about, things can change, and like I said, the models may have shifted that just a hair to the north. And last thing I want to mention here before, and we'll summarize the snowfall totals here in a second. Long term here toward the end of the month, we have this nice change in the pattern of the jet stream where we have this ridge of high pressure here and the trough here we call polar vortex. Anyway, the jet stream kind of rotates up around the ridge, comes back down around the trough like so. Well, when it happens, it taps in to more of that nasty cold air from the pole and Canada, etc., and it brings it right down here to the central and southern part of the country. So when all that happens, you get a very nice cold Arctic outbreak. Now, question is, how cold will it be? It looks like the pattern is going to stick around for a while. Here's an initial guess. And earlier the models had the 25th, and then they had the 27th. And I warned you they were going to have a tough time picking the actual day it happens, and they still will for another couple days, and then they'll settle down. But to kind of give you an idea, like here's the 28th and the 29th. There you see some teens coming back and reinforcing shots every couple of days. There's a lot of teens there and some 20s. We looked at the Canadian model last night. It had a lot of single digits. This is in the first of the month, so there's more single digits in Kansas. There's some really cold stuff below zero for by the time it hits like the 3rd of February. I mean, that's minus 4 degrees. There's right at zero in Oklahoma City. So it just kind of goes to show you what is potentially on the table long term that can cause some problems for us, and we might have to be dealing with some ice associated with that passage of that Arctic air. Usually Arctic air in any point, moisture do not mix well, usually indicates some ice for us versus snow. So we might have to be dealing with that. So here's kind of a look at some preliminary data, and this has been increasing, just so you know, both in the noise of the signal and just in the amounts. So we'll have to keep an eye on that toward the end of the month into early February. And so temperatures as a result, obviously we're going to be on the cold side here for a couple of days on into the weekend. We are going to warm things up a little bit, but then as we head into this period of here, this is still all up in the air. It could easily be much colder than this, and hopefully the miles will settle down because it's not that far away. We're only talking about 5 days, 6 days before we have a significant change in our weather again. But again, we got to get through the first 24 hours here, and the snow, of course, half of it will melt on Wednesday, another half of it will melt on Thursday, and whatever's left, probably in the shaded areas, might still hang around in some little spots as we head on into our weekend, but otherwise that should be just about it. Okay, so I think I'm kind of giving you the whole big picture, the whole brush, everything there is to say about it. Your summary, the timing is, again, west to east across the state, starts a couple hours earlier than other data had indicated. So we're looking again before daybreak, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning out across the western Oklahoma. Moves east, we'll have some light rain here in central Oklahoma, including the metro, of course, and that's through the drive time hours up to about 9 o'clock. And then at that point, the model's starting to already transfer some of it to snow. So it may go back and forth from snow to rain in a very 1 to 2 hour short period of time. But by 11, knock on wood, it should all be snow by that point here in central Oklahoma. And then just snowing to beat the band off and on throughout the entire rest of the day into the evening and overnight. Tulsa, again, your transition time early looked like 4 o'clock. Now it looks like maybe as early as 2 for you to start getting snow in your area. And then again, your heavier rounds of snow will come late afternoon and in the evening hours. So amounts, widespread 4 to 6 inches across the state is no problem. The exception of that would be the far northwest and northern counties, where you can probably shave a couple inches off of that. The other area you may not quite get that much of snow is in far southeast Oklahoma, basically McClurkin County. Everywhere else should have pretty much that blanket of snow in between. Now, who's going to get? There's going to be heavy pockets within that, and that heavy pocket is easily 6 to 8 inches of snow. Right now, Oklahoma City looks like to be in that heavy pocket. From there southward to Lawton and almost down to Ardmore, back out toward Ada and McAllister, Muskogee, Fort Smith, kind of just south of Tulsa. I don't think Tulsa will get 6 to 8. I think Tulsa's like 5. And then from there, northwest Arkansas, again 6 to 8. With those, some of those areas in the Ozarks, man, they can end up not squeeze out a foot of snow somewhere in their little sweet spot into southwest Missouri. But that can happen. That's just because of the terrain. So that is where your heaviest snow will be across the area. And roadways, as I mentioned. Oh, that was the other thing I want to talk about, and I didn't get that a minute ago because I was just thinking about other things. On my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. Go there, hit the weather data tab, go to multi-state road conditions. You can pull this up 24/7, 365. It has hit a lot, this page a lot during winter storms, as here's the reason why. Shows you the soil temperatures. Rule of thumb, if the soil temperatures get into the 30s, especially like the mid-30s, precipitation is much more likely to become a problem on the ground. Now, we're a little bit different for tomorrow because, soil temperature is a lot warmer, but also the actual air temperature will still be above freezing. So that's why most of the roads in most cases should be okay, except when it comes down at a very high rate, like 2 to 3 inches an hour, that can overcome the melting briefly for that period of time. It may not be the whole hour, it may be half an hour, it could be 15, 20 minutes. The roads will become slippery at that point. And you can see that here on this Oklahoma road conditions map. There are no slippery roads out there now. But tomorrow you will see pictures all over this you can click on to find out what the roads look like in your area. Same thing here on this map as well. And this one you can pan out across the entire state, and it shows you traffic moving along. So you can find out if it's safe to go or not. And this also continues up into Kansas. I've got Missouri. I've got even Colorado on here. And I've got Texas. And I also have Arkansas. So that will get you up to date with your road conditions. I know that's the next biggest question I get all the time is, how will the roads be in my backyard? My best guess for roadway deterioration, and this would be again off and on during the period, won't be the whole time, but you're probably looking at the onset of the heaviest precipitation in conjunction with the cooler temperatures. So from about, we'll call it 2 p.m., all right, from 2 to about, let's call it 8. So that 6-hour window from 2 to 8, and not that whole hour, but within that window from 2 to 8, if you're traveling, check out the road conditions map, because if it comes down heavy enough in certain parts of the state at different times, it may blanket the roadways for a while and make them a little slick and hazardous. And that, let's see, there was something else I was going to show you. This is kind of neat. This is the probability of exceeding the warning criteria. All right, the snow warning criteria, again, it has to be at least 4 inches. And so the probability is 50 to 80% here in central Oklahoma, which does include the south end Oklahoma City. This does include, obviously, a lot of Missouri and Arkansas, and, of course, the Texas Panhandle. And this may expand a little bit with the new data tonight, but point being is the take-home of this is that it can lead to situations where the roadways are a little heavy to travel on with snow, just for that brief time frame. And I think I had one other map, and let me see if it's showing anything. Yeah, it does. Okay. So this is the overall impact for the event, and it gives it a category, right? So there's the orange and there's some red, and you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, man, I can't even read that legend myself. My goodness, let me blow this up so we can read it. There we go. And the orange, moderate impact. Disruptions to daily life, hazardous driving conditions, use extra caution, closures and disruptions to infrastructure may occur, and major impacts. Expect considerable disruptions, dangerous and possible driving conditions, avoid travel if possible, widespread closure and disruption. Now, caveat again is that this would be at a very short-term basis, but you can see where the highlights of that is. A lot of that nastiness is up here into parts of Missouri and into northwestern Arkansas, a little bit here in the terrain for eastern Oklahoma, but otherwise kind of in the orange, which is just most of the time it's good, but occasional times it might be a little dicey. All right, so I can't really say much more than I've laid on to you. That is a ton of information for you guys to process and digest. I want to thank you for tuning in, obviously. Thank you for getting my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free, Apple, Google Play. Doesn't cost you a penny. You can download it anytime. You can track the winter weather on it. You have access to my website on there and my lives. I will go live tomorrow. I'll do a lunchtime live, and we'll see where the rain snow line is. and we'll see how it's been going so far out in western Oklahoma. And then we'll see if the model data was any different that came in overnight into tomorrow morning. I don't expect it to be. And then usually it's called a nowcasting period at that point, which is the storm's already here, so let's just track where the heaviest is and where it's going. And so that's usually kind of what we do in that part. And then that's when you turn on your TV and you see all the TV people all standing out in the corner somewhere going, yep, it's snowing, back to you. Which I always hated. I can look out my window and get that. But we're going to look out our window and do that too. And take a look at that. And then I'll do probably another live tomorrow, like in the evening when I get off of work. And then we'll see how it looks after 5. I'm trying to think of anything else. I know a lot of you still tuned in late, and a lot of you are like, oh my gosh, I missed it all. What in the world did he say? It's such a loaded question. Like, I said a lot. By the way, thank you for the stars again. Jennifer, I'm just peeking through the last few comments. I see you shooting me some, so thank you very much. I always appreciate you guys sending me the love on Facebook. And like all the little likes and the hearts and stuff you guys are pumping out there. Let's see. Okay, real quick, those folks that were so super late to the party, first off, shame on you. Second of all, you need to get notified. I don't know what you're doing wrong, but you got to get notified. The third thing, here again is a very short 1-minute summary, and then I'm going to probably sign off because we pretty much did everything. Storm system starts early tomorrow morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock out in far western Oklahoma. Moves east with time. As far as the snow part goes, we get some light rain here in central Oklahoma at daybreak and then through about 9 o'clock. Then that starts to transition over to snow, kind of mixed in a rain and snow mix up through about 11. After that, it should be all snow, knock on wood, here in central Oklahoma, including the metro. And then it's just snow after that from like 1 to the next morning, where it trickles off into flurries. There'll be downtimes where off and on it kind of lightens up, and there'll be times where it's just snowing to beat the band. We're talking 1 inch of snow per hour, 2 inches of snow per hour rates. There might be a 3 inch per rate snowfall hour out there at times. Heaviest snow is kind of confined between, well, we'll call it 4 to 6 widespread across the state, with the exception of far northwest and northern Oklahoma, and the exception of far southeast Oklahoma. So everywhere in between, 4 to 6, no problem. It's going to be plenty of snow. If everything was wrong, the most minimum amount of snow you're going to get is 2 to 4. Let's put it that way. So you know it's going to snow. Then it's just a function of how much, who's going to win out with the most. There is potential for the metro in Oklahoma City to get 6 to 8. And it's going to be difficult because, again, there's going to be at least a couple of inches, in my opinion, of melting. So let's say we got technically, 8 inches of snow officially that fell from the sky. Well, if you go out there and you measure it and there's been melting underneath and you don't measure at the right time, remember, it'll continue to melt for a while as it's still falling, and it compacts, right? So it's fluffy, but it's a very wet snow, so it compacts over time, but it kind of just sinks. So it's kind of like you got to be like the perfect measure ever, and you might get out the 8 inches. Otherwise, it's going to be 6, kind of a deal. I don't think you're going to complain either way. It's a heavy wet snow. The kids are going to love it. They're going to build big, wet, juicy snowmen out of it. They're going to hit each other with these snowballs, which are going to feel like rocks. So you're going to have to go to the ER for a few of them. Hopefully not, but kids are a little rough these days. Otherwise, heavier amounts again, parts of central Oklahoma down toward Lawton, Wichita Falls, southern Oklahoma toward Lawton to Ardmore to Ada to McAllister, Muskogee, kind of just south of Tulsa, through Shawnee, all those in there. There's those little sweet spots anywhere within there can get 8 inches, no problem. Somebody might get an inch more than that. I don't get too crazy. It doesn't matter at this point, but it's some decent snow, right? And temperatures still hold around 33 to 34 degrees for most of the event. So it'll be a heavy wet snow, which will still have a little bit of melting with it, but it's going to come down so heavy that it will overcome that. Same thing with the ground temps, which is pretty warm, which means most of the roadways will be good, with the exception of some periods of time like we outlined between 2 and 8 p.m., where if it comes down heavy enough, it'll overcome the melting that's been going on from the heat, and it'll be a little slippery at that period of time. It may pile up for a while, so keep that in mind. You can use my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. Check out the cameras under the multi-state road conditions tab on the menu, and you can pick any one of those. You can find exactly how it looks at any point in time of the day. That way, if you wanted to know the answer to your question, can I head out? How's the traffic looking? You can click on those maps and you'll get your answer. That's it. All right. Whew. There's a lot. Listen, I want to thank you guys for watching over the last several days. We've been talking about this incoming storm. I always give it to you straight. and I'll show you all the science behind it, so you know I'm not blowing anything up your skirts. And that's about it. I will again see some of you tomorrow when I do the live, and I may make a post between then on Facebook or whatever. But thanks to you guys on Rumble, on YouTube, also checking in, and of course Facebook and Twitter for tonight. Let me think here. Jody, of course, obviously is doing the moderating, so give it up to Miss Jody. She keeps you guys in the know, posting everything on YouTube. Eduardo, thank you very much for the gift. Same thing, Dave and Mean Oki. Appreciate you guys. As always, so if you'd like to leave what they call a gift, or it's a tip basically, you can use that through the two platforms, which is YouTube and also on Facebook with the stars that they have. And then if not, you just want to sign up, you can do Patreon, Subscribe Star, you can do Facebook fan subscriptions. I got many ways where you can join a subscription, and then you can support me that way as well. Many of you do that, and I appreciate that. And then finally, that link that I posted, I'll do it one more time on the Facebook comment section. You can click that link, and I will send you a direct notification in your Facebook Instant Messenger that I'm going live so you don't miss it. The other thing you can do, and I will show you, let me show it to you. Can I show it to you? Let me see. Home. I did this the other night. Yeah. Okay. So real quick. Might as well do it while we're live, right? All right, so you go to my page, and then in this little zone right here, mine says promote or whatever, but yours will say something different. It might say follow or liked or whatever it is, and it might have 3 dots. So you just click this 3-dot action or the follow button to where you get to follow settings. So you see this little button say follow settings. You click on that. This pops up, and you'll go over to here to live video, and you want to click on that, and you see all notifications, highlights are off. Facebook, a lot of times, will turn it off, or they'll give you just the highlights. Highlights means you'll never see me, except once in a blue moon. So you want to put it on all, that way you don't miss the live broadcast, and that'll solve that problem, in theory. Same thing for videos, although I don't post a lot of just straight-up videos usually. I usually just go live. In the posts themselves, there's highlights, again, which means you're going to miss stuff, or you can do standard, which is up to 5 per day. And most of the times, I only post once a day, and sometimes I don't post at all. So you're not going to get flooded on your wall if you hit the standard. So that's why you don't miss like a blog post that I make, which is usually on Sundays, and I share that on Sunday and Monday. And then an occasional post that I make during the week when I've got some time. But that's kind of how you can fix that issue on Facebook if you're having some trouble and you've been wondering why you have not been seeing me lately. That will answer your question. All right, I am out. You guys have been great. Appreciate your time tonight. And we will see some of you here tomorrow. Sleep well and enjoy the snow. I know I'm going to. All right, see you, everybody.